What's going on, guys? Danny or Wi-Fi Astronaut here, and today we are going to be talking about the 7 most common Amazon wholesale misconceptions I hear, or kind of different questions I get asked that just aren't usually always totally accurate. So let's get right into it. So the first one is that you can't start Amazon with wholesale. Now, obviously, I would never suggest going from zero Amazon knowledge to wholesale, just because the learning curve on that is going to be quite extreme. Whereas if you go from zero knowledge of Amazon to books, or zero knowledge to OA, some light OA, or even retail arbitrage, some RA, where when you take those risks in used books or OA, RA, there's usually ways out of it, whether you can return them or because the buy cost on books are 25 cents, 50 cents, super, super low. So the risk is low. As opposed to wholesale, the risk is a little bit higher. Your mistakes will cost you more, whereas with OA, RA, they don't. So I always suggest starting with those just to get proficient with the platform, with listings, with Keepa, with everything. But you can go from zero knowledge to wholesale. I just don't suggest it. I know people that have done it, and they're fine. I know people that have done it and haven't been fine. It's just because that learning curve is a lot steeper. Now, the second question, or the kind of misconception, is that you need a ton of money to do wholesale. You don't, right? Most wholesale orders, or MOAs, minimum order amounts, tend to be between the 1,000, 2,000, right? But you don't necessarily need that amount to be able to do it. There's things called net 30 terms, net 15 terms. You can get credit. You don't need a ton of money to start out. The next misconception is that distributors don't sell to Amazon sellers. It's just completely wrong. Some of them don't want to sell to any more Amazon sellers because they have too many, right? They may only keep a certain amount so that the listings stay profitable for those ones that they already have on. Some just don't like to deal with them. But a lot of it comes down to how you present yourself to these distributors and sales reps, and how you come off, how knowledgeable you are on the business, and really your first impression. But yeah, most people will sell to Amazon sellers unless it's a brand direct deal and that brand is already selling themselves on Amazon, because then obviously they won't sell to you. But that's why I usually say I'm an e-com distributor or another e-com or e-retailer. And that's why I have a online storefront and a retail storefront, so that I don't necessarily need to say I'm an Amazon seller. The next misconception that I hear a ton is that the margins are just too small. While the margins are definitely tighter, right? They're smaller. I know some of my wholesale products are as low as 10%, and then they get as high as 25, 30, but that's really, really rare when it's 25, 30. For me, I average around 15, 16%. And as I scale up, my margins are actually going higher, are increasing, because I'm able to order more quantity, which therefore leads to larger discounts. So my margins are actually slowly creeping up. I believe it will top off around 17%, because there's only so much a sales rep can take off of a product, because they need to make money as well. But yeah, the margins are not too small. They're smaller than OA and RA typically, and definitely used books, because the used book buy cost is so low. But I mean, the margins are there, 15, 20%, 15%, 10%. I'll take these margins all day long. They're fine. The next misconception is that it's saturated. It is not saturated whatsoever. There's new people coming in every day, killing it. You have, I think it's almost 200 million people in the United States that have access to an Amazon Prime account. That's nuts. That's over 2/3 of the U.S. It's not saturated at all. Only, I believe, 60,000, around 50, 60,000 sellers in the U.S. did over $1 million in sales last year. That's nothing. There's a ton of sellers, but there's not a lot of people doing volume. So I would encourage anyone to not get discouraged by saying it's saturated, because it's really not. There's not enough sellers for it to be saturated. There's tons of money in it still, and I think there always will be. Next misconception I hear is that you can't buy on a credit card. That's not necessarily true. There may be penalties for buying on a credit card from some distributors. They may impose a 2 to 3% fee for buying on a credit card. But yeah, usually you can buy on credit. I know a lot of distributors and wholesalers and brands, I don't buy any of my brands on credit card, but a lot of distributors and wholesalers will try and encourage you to do net 30 terms or prepay a wire. But and then at the end of net 30 you pay by wire. But usually they don't, they rather you bank transfer or wire, just because they don't have to pay any fees and they make more money. But yeah, no, you can buy on credit. You just have to ask. And finally, the last misconception that I hear is that some categories are better than others. That's not necessarily true. I think one thing I notice in successful wholesale operations is that usually someone or the business they'll focus on one category, right? So for me, it's electronics. I focus on electronics, at least for right now. And then every other like kind of big every other big like Amazon seller I see tends to or initially focus on one category so that they're able to build the best relationships and maximize their dollars and maximize their dollars the most while they have like limited capital. Yeah, I mean, every category is good. It's just about where you want to put your money and where you want to spend time building those relationships with the sales reps. But yeah, guys, that's it for today. Those are the top 7 Amazon wholesale misconceptions I hear. If you liked or enjoyed this video at all, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.